back to the Early Weigh-In podcast. This week we got UFC Vegas 44, Rob Font versus Jose Aldo. It's a massive fight in the bantamweight division. Big fight looming for the winner here. Possibly a title shot. Real potential of Corey Sandhagen there waiting the winner. And in the co-main event, we've got a striking battle for the ages between Rafael Fiziev and Brad Riddell, both former Tiger Muay Thai training partners. One of the best co-main events I can think of. Last week, UFC gave us a week off, and it was almost bittersweet. I love having fights every single weekend, but UFC Vegas 43 was one of the worst cards today. We had one finish throughout the entire card. That makes 8 of our past 9 main events that have gone the full 5 rounds. Much needed recharge to finish off the year here. Ty's had something come up last minute, so you're stuck with me this week. So going over last week, we did scrape by with some small profit, 0.8 units. The lack of finishes kind of took away from our profit, but we did hit like 3 of our 4 straight picks. We hit the 2 unit on Sean Brady. We hit the 1.5 units on Cody Durden. We also had a 1.5 unit on Sabatini, decision only, which ended up looking like one of the easiest bets of the night. Where we came up short, we did back Loma. We knew the grappling could potentially be a factor, but we didn't think it would be that lopsided. And then again, the lack of violence definitely took away from our profit. We're hoping it was going to continue. We took a shot on some finishes in the Durden, Richie Lang fight, as well as in the Garcia and Natan Levy fight. Came up short there, but the last little stab we took, JoJo Calderwood by decision, sitting at plus 500. She throws in real volume. Thought maybe she could squeak one out. And man, Santos looks like the real deal, going out there and putting her away the way that she did. Nothing locked in this week yet. I think we're looking at a couple underdog shots, maybe going against a lot of what people think, and I think we're going to take a stab on Jared Vanderaa there. But man, before we get started, do us a quick favor, throw a like to the video, and sub to the channel if you haven't yet. First up, the main event of the evening, we got Rob Font, who's 19-4, taking on Jose Aldo, who's 30-7. With Rob Font, man, part of the New England cartel, big-time trading partner of Calvin Kattar. And the dude's just been on absolute terror lately. He's got a win over Sergio Pettis, who's now defending his bantamweight strap this week in Bellator. Beat one of the brighter prospects in Ricky Simone, and man, ran right through Marlon Moraes in an absolute clinic over one of the better boxers in the division, and Cody Garbrandt. He outstruck him every single round. The volume of Rob Font, absolutely incredible, man. He's constantly putting the jab in your face, throwing in combination, and he's really started to add some kicks, and shoring up that wrestling defense as well. With Jose Aldo, dude needs no introduction. Ran the featherweight division for damn near a decade, and since moving down to bantamweight, honestly, he really hasn't skipped a beat. He got a title shot off of a loss to the Marlon Moraes, which a lot of people did think he was going to win. But it is a comparable fight where Jose Aldo goes, 3 hard rounds with him, and Rob Font goes out there and puts him away. I just don't know if the Marlon Moraes that we're seeing right now is the same one that we were seeing when he was first coming into the UFC. Then you see him come up short against the champ Peter Yan, and you can't really knock him for that. And I know Aldo, a lot of people will say he had a ton of success early in that fight, and he really did. But I think we've seen since that Peter Yan is really one of those guys that take that first round and a half to just get a bunch of reads, download that information, and where he really starts to pick it up in the rounds 3, 4, and 5. And man, that's the rounds that we've seen Aldo really start to fade in. So that's a big concern for me here, because Rob Font's going to come out there with an incredible gas tank, and he's going to be throwing the jab in Aldo's face with an incredible rate of volume. And I'm worried that could fade and get to Aldo's gas tank late. But at the same time, I'm going to see a ton of areas where Aldo's going to have success too, man. He's going to be able to tear up Rob Font's lead leg. He's going to be able to slip Font's jab, dig that left hook to the body. I don't think there's anything Rob Font is going to throw here at Aldo that he's not seen before. I actually think, on the feet, these guys are damn near pick 'em. Jose Aldo is just as good of a striker, and he's way more experienced. The pick is going to be Aldo. I got him at a plus 150, which I think is incredible value. If you're going to bet Rob Font, there's rounds 3, 4, and 5, around 4 or 5 decision. That's what I meant, 4 or 5 decision plus 165 sitting out there. And if Rob Font gets it done, I do think it's later on in the fight, and I think there's a better potential that if you're going to back Rob Font, you do it live betting after rounds 1 or 2, where maybe Jose's keeping in the fight early, but he's going to start to fade. Pick is Aldo though, man. I think he's just right there with Font in the striking, and he's just seen much better competition. Jose Aldo is going to remind us all that he's still at the top of the game on Saturday. In the co-main event is easily the best fight on this card. We've got Rafael Fiziev, who's 10-1, taking on Brad Riddell, who's also 10-1. And how much more even of a fight can you even ask for? These guys got the same record, same Muay Thai background, used to be training partners at Tiger Muay Thai together. They actually said in an interview, whenever they got the offer on the table, they actually picked up the phone and called each other to see if the other one was okay with them accepting it. They actually consider themselves, pretty good friends, and they're only doing this for the fans because they keep asking for it. And man, I'm so stoked for this fight on Saturday. Fiziev, he's now out of Sanford MMA. And outside of his debut loss there, getting caught with the spinning back kick to Mustafayev, the dude's look incredible. Pieced together 4 wins in a row. His striking is top notch, man. The way he throws his left hook's incredible, always in combination. He ends it by switching levels with his kicks. Some of the body kicks he throws, just absolutely brutal. But we saw in that Bobby Green fight, putting all that, all that heat into your shots, all those kicks, man, it really does take a toll on you. In round 3, I don't want to just call it an absolute cardio dump, but all the bouncing around and all the kicks, man, they stopped. And, it was potential that a 10-8 for Bobby Green was on the board there. And, man, I just think that if it's 1-1 going into the third round again here, I really do think Brad Riddell's got more in him with the potential to take over. He's now at City Kickboxing, training with some of the best talent in the world, and coming off one of the fights of the year with Drew Dober. And, Brad Riddell's going to match Fiziev on the feet as far as talent-wise, and that's just not something that Fiziev is used to. While Brad Riddell probably doesn't have the same amount of footwork and striking defense, I think Brad Riddell is more typical of a Muay Thai striker, more of his, doesn't get his head off the center line, does get hit more, but he's just as talented on the feet as Fiziev is here. And where he does have an advantage, in my opinion, is going to be in that cardio. And as much as people don't want to see it, it's in the wrestling, man. I will not be shocked if Brad Riddell comes out here and mixes in a takedown or two. It will not surprise me. He does a great job at working to the body with his boxing as well. And all that's something that's going to take toll on Fiziev if this is another high-paced striking battle here. My gut is telling me to take Riddell here, and that's why Tyler and I are going to make this a casual cap on Saturday. He's going to take Rafael Fiziev, and we honestly couldn't pick a better fight for this to be on, but my gut is telling me Brad Riddell is going to take this one here. We just saw him fight a very similar Muay Thai striker in Drew Dober and come out on top. Yes, Dober definitely had his moments, but Dober's a southpaw, and it was that straight left that kept catching, Riddell. Was kind of beating him to the punch, and Fiziev's not a southpaw. So some of those same, weapons that Riddell was having issues with, not going to be the same case here. I saw him dig deep in round 3, almost get the finish, all the way to the last bell. It's really, really hard to just say that you can be super confident on one side here. Such a similar stylistic matchup. I think Fiziev is probably the more hyped up prospect of the two, and that's why you're seeing some of the more money come on him. But to say that you have an absolute confident read on this one, pretty crazy to me. Going to be an awesome, awesome fight on Saturday. Going to go with Brad Riddell. Moving down the card, we see Clay Guida, who's 36-21, taking on Leonardo Santos, who's 18-4-1. We're in the lightweight division here with Clay Guida. Man, dude's got 30-something fights here in the UFC, and he's just notorious for making them close as hell, always getting them to the judges' scorecards. Like a wild man, hair bouncing around everywhere on the outside, just picking his shots. An incredible work rate, and as he's aged, the cardio has gone absolutely nowhere. He loves to mix in that wrestling. But very similar to the Marco Madsen fight, when you've got someone that can really negate Clay Guida's wrestling or give him, threaten him on the mat, it takes away a lot of Guida's game plan, because he's not really just one of those strikers, So if it stays on the feet, it's hard for me to favor Clay Guida here. Santos also going to have a massive, massive size and reach advantage, and I think it's just an excellent spot for him, to be honest with you. I favor Santos heavily on the feet. I think he's got the better striking. I think he could snipe Clay Guida, as he's going to have to be trying to close that distance. But Clay Guida is also going to have to be much more patient in his approach here than he's used to. He's not going to be able to be just crashing forward, looking for the takedowns and stuff, because the submission game of Leonardo Santos is dangerous, and he's also sporting something like an 89% takedown defense. In the last fight out against Grant Dawson, I know he gets finished with like a couple seconds left. Judges' scorecards kind of all over the place in a really close fight. But, man, Grant Dawson, and Clay Guida, very, very similar style of wrestling. I honestly think Grant Dawson's probably the better wrestler and the much stronger wrestler of the two. And Leonardo Santos was stuffing a lot of those, and I think he's going to stuff a whole lot of Clay Guida's takedowns. And if Guida does find himself successful getting on top, Santos being the black belt he is, he's gonna offer Clay Guida a whole lot off his back, give him a ton of issues there. My prediction here, I'm gonna go with Santos inside the distance. I favor him, like I said, heavily on the feet. Where I see in this getting done though is by submission. I think Leonardo Santos is going to submit Clay Guida. Could possibly be something off his back here, but I think on a sloppy takedown attempt, the size, the length, Leonardo Santos is going to snatch up a guillotine and get Clay Guida out of here. But as always, want to give some advice if you're on the other side and you think Clay Guida is going to win here. I know he's already the underdog, and it might be the mature thing to go ahead and just bet him as the underdog. But he's finished one guy since 2011, and it's Joe Lozon. So, I mean, if you're on Guida, take his decision prop. You know, he always just out-hustling guys to the decision. Probably get a little bit better of a price tag, but I'm going to go with Leonardo Santos, and I'm pretty confident one of my stronger leans of the night. Another fantastic matchmaking by the UFC here in light heavyweight division. We see Jimmy Crute, who's 12-2, taking on Jamahal Hill, who's 8-1. Me and Tyler talked about it here earlier in the week, and you know, both of these guys are probably going to sit around the 10 to top 15 ranking majority of their career. But it is just an excellent fight here that the UFC's put together between one of the better prospects that we've got here. Jamahal Hill, you know, with Jamahal Hill, for me, he's one guy that I think he thinks his athleticism is going to carry him all the way to the top here. He was pretty open about, you know, just not taking that Craig fight seriously. Thought he was going to go out there and beat him. You know, you see him smoking stuff all the time. Sometimes, you know, from what I see when I watch him, I think he lacks the discipline, some of the work ethic, and some of the training it's going to need to, you know, to get him to the top. You know, I don't want to keep knocking him, though. The guy's a fantastic fighter. He's got an incredible reach, length for the division, and he's a fantastic boxer, man. And what I like most about him, you don't see the guy out here loading up, putting anything for home run shots. He's happy to just rather, you know, touch you up. He knows he's a light heavyweight. The finish will come. He really probably, you know, in this matchup, straight up boxing-wise, he's definitely going to have the advantage over Jim Crute here. And if he's watching tape, you know, you should probably study that Lionheart fight some, because Jamahal Hill's jab is probably going to be hoping all day for him to stay behind that against Jim Crute. Jim Crute, you know, I think he's the better prospect of the two here. He's been working a whole lot with Jake Matthews, also later on this card, some with Robert Whitaker as well. And if he gets on the inside, the guy's going to have just an absolute massive power advantage on the feet. They are light heavyweights. Jim Crute does tend to get, you know, hit more than I like. But I almost trust his chin here against Jamahal Hill to be able to take the shots, close that distance. And I don't think Jamahal is going to be able to take the same kind of shots Jim Crute is here. You know, in his last fight with Lionheart, a lot of, you know, basically what's remembered is Lionheart, you know, landing that leg kick and Crute's calf giving out. But if you watch that fight back, Crute's actually the one landing, you know, just tearing Lionheart up with the calf kicks. And that's going to be a massive advantage here for him, too. I think he's going to be able to tear at the legs of Jamahal Hill. And when Jamahal Hill throws that jab, he's going to be able to come over the top with a big right hand. What most people probably see, I also see as well here. Big ground advantage for Jim Crute, big wrestling advantage. If he gets him down or gets him, you know, up against the cage, Jim Crute's going to look a whole lot stronger than Jamahal Hill will. And I won't be surprised if he gets Jamahal Hill down to the ground. I think he's got a whole lot better jiu-jitsu, and he could find the sub here. We saw Jamahal Hill give up like 6 takedowns in the Stosic fight. He was also kind of getting touched up a little bit, man. So I like Jim Crute. I really do. I like him here. He's down to a -160 on DraftKings, and if that trend is continuing, I'm happy to wait. He's one of my stronger leans as well, and hopefully I can get Ty on board with that. Next up, we're in the middleweight division where we see Brendan Allen, who's 17-4, taking on Chris Curtis, who's 27-8, and Curtis making a very quick turnaround after a massive upset over Phil Hawes at UFC 268. Playing a little mind games with Brendan Allen as well here, coming in with Sean Strickland in his corner. I think he's doing some work there at Syndicate MMA, staying in Vegas. But props to Chris Curtis, man. You know, he goes out last time. He's typically a welterweight, fighting in PFL and other organizations, but comes up a weight class, takes on Phil Hawes, and a lot of people, you know, counting him out. And I'm really happy for him. You know, first one to really take advantage and crack Phil Hall's chin after so many have been close. I really don't care for Phil Hall's. I think Chris Curtis got snubbed on the Contender Series and should have been signed a while ago. Yeah, very happy for him, man, but a little bit surprised he's staying at middleweight here, and taking on a very big middleweight in Brendan Allen. And I think if Brendan Allen goes to his roots, goes to his strength, it's going to prevent a much harder style than Phil Hall's was given Curtis. With Brendan Allen, Sanford MMA now. He doesn't train at Rufus Sport anymore, which I've always, been open about being a huge fan of. He's getting twice the looks now at Sanford MMA than he was over at Rufus Sport. The guy's got a ridiculously good jiu-jitsu game for only being 25 years old. He's still working on the wrestling to get it down to the mat. Man, when he does get you onto the mat, he's extremely, extremely good. And you see massive improvements made in the stand-up under Henry Hoof there at Sanford MMA. Great teep kick. Showed a great jab last time out. He fought Punahele Soriano, who is a very good Hawaiian striker. And Brendan Allen goes out there and doesn't even need his wrestling, doesn't even need his jiu-jitsu, and just pieces him up, outstrikes him cleanly for 15 minutes. He's fought a tough slate of opponents before coming over to the UFC, which is why I think at 25 years old he's already close to the top 15 of the UFC. And he's just only getting better each time we see him out, while the finished product of Chris Curtis is what we're seeing already. If Chris Curtis comes out here and gets this done, I actually think it's an even bigger upset than it was over Phil Hall's. The style of fight that's always given Chris Curtis difficulty in the past, the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu. If Brendan Allen is smart, he makes it quick. He takes him down. He's much stronger of the two. He's actually fought Strickland at 195 pounds. I like Allen here. I like Allen as a parlay piece. I think Allen goes out here and submits Chris Curtis. Prelim main event of the evening, we see Maki Pitolo, who is 13-8, taking on Dusko Todorovic, who's 10-2. We stay in the middleweight division again. For this one, I feel like I know who the better fighter of the two. I really do. I feel like I know who the better fighter of the two is. But Maki is almost kind of like a shittier Punahele Soriano. And if he gets in the pocket and lets his hands go, man, Dusko is he just leaves himself open, man. He's just asking to be KO'd, leaving his hands down and the chin wide open. And it makes me a little nervous. Maybe keeping me off of Dusko, even though I think he's the better fighter here. Maki Pitolo, he's out of Extreme Couture. He got a finish over the Contender Series, but since coming to the UFC, kind of underperformed in my opinion. He's too small for middleweight, but he's got just a real tough cut down to welterweight, and he's lost 4 of his last 5, I think 3 in a row, putting him in a real tough spot here. What Maki prefers to do, stay on the outside, tear up that lead leg, create striking exchanges where he can land the big hooks. He loves to go to the body with his boxing. And in the Julian Marquez last time, he comes out and shows that he's actually can wrestle as well. But it was at a detriment to the gas tank, and he ends up getting submitted in round 3. I don't know which Maki's going to show up. Is he going to wrestle? Is he going to strike? With Dusko, he trains out of Serbia. I think the only fighter really worth noting that he trains with is former UFC fighter Stefan Sekulic. And prior to his last 2, he was one of the better middleweight prospects that we had. It was 10-0, but has now found himself losing 2 in a row. The first one that he lost pretty badly to Punahele Soriano, man. Punahele, took advantage of that piss poor striking defense. And anytime he was fading back, Punahele just threw, instead of throwing the looping hook, he straightened him up, man, and was able to get Dusko out of there. And I don't think that's the last time we're going to see, Dusko caught like that. And then the timeout, his last loss, Dusko just kind of got routed by Gregory Rodriguez, which, Gregory Rodriguez, I guess, has proven to be a little bit better than we thought. And I think RoboCop, I think Punahele 100% beat Maki Pitolo. I like Dusko. I think he's a whole lot better of a fighter. I think he's a whole lot faster. I think he's a better wrestler. And both guys need a win very, very badly, possibly to keep their job. So it does make me want to stay away from this fight, as I think, it's a tricky one. It really is. Callan Potter beating you, getting submitted by Darren Stewart, the cardio dump to Julian Marquez. I don't see much I like for Maki Pitolo. I think he's more of a KO buster here. And is he live to catch Dusko? For sure, but my pick's going to be Dusko Todorovic to beat Maki Pitolo on Saturday. Moving down the card, In the welterweight division, we see Jake Matthews, who's 17-5, taking on Jeremiah Wells, who was 9-2-1. I mentioned just a second ago, you got Jake Matthews doing a whole lot of work with Jim Crute this camp. The guy's about to make his 16th UFC walk, and he's only 27 years old. That experience is going to be a massive edge that he has in this one. Jake Matthews, he has been finishing majority of his losses, but they're all by submission. The guy's done a fantastic job of keeping his chin safe throughout his 15 fights. I think he's only been knocked down just one time. And while Jeremiah does have that just unreal power, Jake does a good job of keeping himself, out of danger. And I think he's only going to have to withstand the danger for a little bit of time. Jeremiah does come out there very, very heavy in round one, comes out the gate swinging. And I think if Jake Matthews can get out of that, I like him really to take over the rounds 2 and 3 and potentially give you a good live betting spot. With Jake, he does nothing just really, really good, but he's developed an overall game that's just pretty decent. And I think what he's going to prefer to do is withstand that heavy round one for Jeremiah Wells, wear on him, take a lot of that strength out of him, and look to take him down in rounds 2 and 3 and sit on top of him, make this fight boring like a lot of them, but taking on the judges' scorecards. With Jeremiah Wells, the dude shocked the world last time out with, beating Warlley Alves in his debut. He's a massive underdog. No one really knew about him, but he's part of that Philly squad under Daniel Gracie. He trains with fantastic people in Pat Sabatini, Andre Petrosky, and the most notable one that I want to mention is Sean Brady. And the one you got to mention for that is, Jake Matthews' last loss is to Sean Brady, so they've already game planned for him before. And that is a big advantage I think that Jeremiah could have here. He's extremely explosive, and he's real heavy once he gets on top of you. He showed that in round one after knocking Alves down. But, it could have been the eagerness of the debut or just, the style that he brings. But the cardio was definitely slowing down in round two. And I think if Warlley Alves would have been able to withstand a couple more minutes, he probably would have started to take over that fight. But what Jeremiah shows, man, is power is one of the last things to go in a fight. And you throw a naked leg kick or something, and Jeremiah can counter, man. And that type of fight-ending power makes him a difficult fighter to cap. I'm going to go with Jake Matthews. He's never been TKO'd on the feet, so to bank on Jeremiah doing that, it's just something that never has happened before. And I don't think he's going to beat Jake Matthews any other way. I don't think he's disciplined enough to. If Jeremiah Wells wins, it's going to be inside the distance. It's probably by TKO, which is like plus 500. But, man, the pick is Matthews. He's very patient, very mature, not afraid to take the fight deep into the later rounds to ride you out with boring control time. And I think it's another patent Jake Matthews decision win here. Jumping down to the men's flyweight division, we see Zhalgas Zhumagulov, who's 14-5, taking on Manel Kape, who's 16-6. Zhalgas, he's training out of American Top Team, man. He works with some very, very good talent like Pantoja. He's already beaten Manel Kape, and also, Horiguchi, who's fighting for a belt this week. He's fought a tough slate of opponents, Russian opponents, before coming over to the UFC. And the fight that everybody always likes to talk about is that one against Tagir Ulanbekov, where he comes out victorious in that one a little bit, due to some home cooking. And it's definitely a fight that, I just got around to watching a couple months ago. And he doesn't win that fight. But when you watch his, debut against Raulian Paiva, shit, man, he makes a damn good case for himself that he should have probably won that fight. Last time out, he's taken on Jerome Rivera, which is, one of the worst UFC fighters that have come to date. And somehow, as a massive underdog, having a 6-inch height advantage, I talked myself into backing Jerome Rivera, and, was I wrong? He getting caught in a guillotine when you're 6 inches taller than somebody that is the most Jerome Rivera thing to date that I can think of. As August, though, he's a pretty damn good striker, but I don't know if he wants to stand out at range and strike with Manel Kape, who, I think is the better striker of the two. Whereas August could have success, trying to grind him up against the fence, maybe mix in a takedown or two. I don't think he's going to get knocked out on the feet against Manel Kape, but I just don't know if his strikes are as flashy and stuff as Manel Kape's are. Manel Kape, very, very talented kickboxer. Now he's working a whole lot at Extreme Couture, working with Habib's boys and stuff, trying to shore up the wrestling. He was the Risen champ before coming over, and you always got to note that when capping his fights for a few reasons. He's finally starting to kind of get the feel of not fighting with the shoes on. He was slipping around and stuff a little bit. And He's also now getting a little bit more comfortable with the cage and stuff around him, knowing he can be put on the cage. And, that can hinder a whole lot of his kicks and stuff, which he likes to rely on. But most notably, man, I think, he's starting to realize his volume has got to increase. He can't sit back and counter strike and just look for the home run shot. You've got to win rounds in the UFC, and if you let time slip by, you're going to lose close fights. He's not had the first two go his way, but he finally got, the highlight reel flying knee finish that everybody wanted to see from Manel Kape last time out against Ode Osborne. But, he came in at 129 pounds, putting a kind of an asterisk by his only UFC victory. So it's a close one here, man. I really like Manel Kape here. I think he's the better striker of the two, and I think the UFC is giving him a winnable fight here. Zhalgas, though, the dude is just known, for making fights close as hell. He's had like 19 fights, and I think he's only been finished one time. So the fact that I can almost guarantee you this one goes to decision, do I really want to bet Manel Kape at minus 225 or something? I really don't know. So the pick is Kape. The pick is him to win by decision. But I probably won't have any action on that one. In our women's strawweight division, we see Mallory Martin, who's 7-4, taking on Cheyanne Vlismas, who is 6-2. With Mallory Martin, she's now training out in Denver, Colorado. She looks to doing some work with the Champ Rose, so a young girl in her career, man, you honestly can't get any better work than with the Champ there. But since coming to the UFC, she's been rather less than impressive. I'll give you a pass for dropping your short notice debut opportunity, getting submitted by Verna Jandiroba. But my goodness, man, the next two, the Hannah Pfeiffer's fight could have been stopped, man. Mallory Martin, I thought, was out a couple times. Props to her for showing her heart and coming back and winning that fight pretty dominantly in the second round when she goes to her grappling, but. Man, Hannah Cyphers is supposed to be the journeyman people run over to start getting a name in the UFC. And then the next time out, Polyana Viana is so comfortable in her jiu-jitsu, man. She pulls guard and immediately locks up a triangle, goes to armbar. You just see Mallory Martin make multiple mistakes there trying to get out of that. I don't like what I see from her that much. But on the feet, she is pretty patient. She looks pretty mature. She's got good feints, a good little check left hook. But she's one that likes to implement her ground game, and I honestly just think Cheyenne's a better wrestler and got better skills on the ground. She's back at Extreme Couture, which is really good for her. And she had a pretty embarrassing debut loss to Bunny Ruiz, just getting tossed around by that headlock, but made up for it, man, and looked incredible last time out. She put Gloria DePaulo away. With that head kick, beautiful, nasty ground and pound. I like Cheyanne here. I like her to have the wrestling advantage. I like her to put Mallory Martin on her back, probably grind out a decision win. But again, it's a fight that's probably going to go to decision. It's a fight that is between very close level competition and girls, and you're having to pay a pretty hefty price tag on Cheyanne Vlismas. And I'm sure every capper in the world has probably talked about it on their podcast, so I'm not going to go much into it. But Cheyanne, her attention has had to be elsewhere this training camp and stuff with, the shit with her and JP. So I don't know. I like Cheyanne, but there's things there that are kind of keeping me off of her. In the men's light heavyweight division, we see Alonzo Menifield, who's 11-2, taking on William Knight, who's 10-2. Hopefully, third time is a charm here. These guys have been matched up already twice just to have the fight fall apart. Very, very close to fight day. Alonzo Menifield, he trains out at Fortis MMA. He's on a 2-fight win streak himself. He got a win over Fabio Chiron, I think, who stepped in for William Knight on short notice. He goes out and shoots a double leg right out the gates, so shocking everybody. Ends up getting the Von Flue victory, adding submission wins to what a lot of people thought was a knockout or bust guy. And next time out against Ed Herman, I honestly thought he was gonna put the old Ed Herman away, but props to him, man. He looked a whole lot more patient out there. He beat Ed Herman 30-27 on all the scorecards. He had a nice counter right hand. This calf kick was annihilating Herman's lead leg. The cardio looked a whole lot better. He wasn't just swinging for the fences. Knight, he's coming off a win over Fabio Chiron himself, where he got a first-round knockout with just one of the most unorthodox left hooks that I've seen to date, and it's pretty much just a testament to, the kind of power that Knight does pack in his punches. Prior to that, he had a really, really good inside leg kick, but not much else, man. What I really noticed watching that fight is the way he exits his exchanges, man. His hands are down, the chin's way up in the air. He's trying to fade back, and man, Dong Jun was just tossing him around, piecing him up with the jab. I don't like some of his sloppy techniques that I see, and I think the power of Alonzo Menifield could get in there and put William Knight away. I was on Alonzo Menifield the first time around. I'm pretty sure we've already broken this fight down maybe twice here. I'm going to stick with him again, keep this one short. Knight, someone that relies on that power, that strength, and that muscle, and he's got somebody in front of him that's going to negate a whole lot of that, and somebody that I think is the better striker of the two. Going to go with Alonzo Menifield. I won't be shocked if he put William Knight away, but if it's a high paced fight early, it could turn into a sloppy cage grappling. For the last 2 rounds, pick as Alonzo Menifield. Moving down through the last couple fights, we're in the men's lightweight division where we see Claudio Puelles, who's 10-2, taking on Chris Gruetzmacher, who's 15-4. With Claudio Puelles, he's out of Sanford MMA now. He's a guy that I took a shot on last time out. He had been out of competition for like 2 years. The dude was a 2-1 underdog to Jordan Levitt, Jordan Levitt is bottom level UFC competition to me. And he went out there and basically beat Jordan Levitt at his own game, over 10 minutes of control time. Man, he defended some deep single leg takedown attempts from Jordan. He wound up on top in some of the most just incredible scramble positions. I really liked what I saw from Claudio on the mat. The guy's only 25 years old. He's going to continue to improve. He got that layoff out of the way. And his style of fighting, going to that wrestling, going to that grappling, showing a good gas tank, I think it's a style of fight, man, that really could cause Chris Gruetzmacher some trouble here. With Gruetzmacher, though, that guy is somebody on my absolute shit list right now. His upset over Rafa Garcia, big dent in my pocket, and big dent in a lot of people's pocket as well. I really thought Rafa Garcia was going to be able to go out there, use the boxing, and put him away. And he almost did, man. But I also want to note that, when they squared off, they had them both listed at 5'8", and Chris Gruetzmacher looked so much bigger. He really shocked a whole lot of people, man. And granted, he did almost get put away in round 1. He showed that he still got some of that durability left. And after that, he put a pace that was just, something that Rafa Garcia couldn't keep up. And, if Puelles, I hope he's not one to go out here and gas. He's not the one that goes out here and slings big bombs. But Chris Gruetzmacher is one guy that you're going to have to put away, or he's going to be there for 15 minutes walking you down. I just keep going back to I have faith that Claudio Puelles is not going to strike with him. I have faith that he's going to go out here and grapple. And I think Claudio Puelles will be able to get him down, hopefully find the submission, maybe ride him out to a decision with, 11, 12 minutes of control time. It's a real close fight. I believe a whole lot of money has came in on Claudio Puelles, and it's now almost a pick 'em here. It's tricky. Probably won't see any action. My gut tells me Claudio Puelles is going to win, though. Moving down, we're in the men's heavyweight division where we see Azamat Murzakanov, who's 10-0, taking on Jared Vanderaa, who's 12-6. Jared Vanderaa stepping in on short notice, replacing Felipe Lins here, but Felipe Lins was going to be coming down to 205, and now Azamat is going up to heavyweight to fight Jared Vanderaa. Vanderaa, his UFC career has kind of been all over the place. Called out Spivak after getting his Contender Series win, and then proceeds to get mauled. And then he goes out there and kind of shocks everybody and outboxes Justin Tafa for 15 minutes. And a lot of people thought he was going to get knocked out there. But kind of right back to the old Vanderaa and the Romanov fight. And, UFC just kind of doing him no favors. Spivak and Romanov are two very good grapplers. And, that's the kind of style that can really beat Jared Vanderaa. But, man, when Jared Vanderaa is the longer, stronger fighter, I don't know, man. Some people are making me think I'm crazy that Jared Vanderaa is potentially to be a live dog here. I will agree with you. Azamat, he's an absolute motherfucker on the feet. He bounces in and out of range well. Very good straight left that he follows up with a clean right hook. He's going to have just, an unreal speed advantage, an unreal striking advantage over Jared. But Jared's a tough, durable man, and if Azamat can't get him out of there in round 1, he's just shown inexperience outside of round 1. He's only fought one time since 2019, and he was a -500 favorite there on the Contender Series. it almost reminds me of Dariev a couple weeks back. It was a very easy fight on the Contender Series after a long layoff, and here he is as a massive favorite. Not so much massive favorite anymore, but he was like the minus 230, and this one just could be greasy as hell. And if Jared Vanderaa is able to get out of round one, Azamat has not shown me that he's got a gas tank that he can, keep up the same pace for rounds 2 and rounds 3. We've already locked in a unit play on Jared Vanderaa. We got him at like plus 184. I really like it. But at the same time, if Azamat wins and goes down to light heavyweight where he's meant to, where his natural weight class is, I don't hate it. I think he has skills. I just think he's going up a weight class and not making a smart decision here. There are weight classes for a reason. And out of principle, I think we're inclined to take that 1 unit dog shot on Jared Vanderaa. Moving down in the welterweight division, we see Alex Morono, who's 20-7, taking on Mickey Gall, who's 7-3. And a lot of times you see some recency bias have huge effect on lines, and just not really the case here. Mickey Gall, he's coming off a very, very impressive win over Jordan Williams, kind of knocking him out and then submitting him in the first round, and he's still a big underdog here. And I think that's just because you look back and, man, you see Mickey Gall losing Diego Sanchez, getting out-wrestled by Mike Perry. But at the same time, he's young, and he has plenty of time to make the improvements. He works a whole lot with Matt Brown, who was supposed to be on this card. The guy has got an unreal jiu-jitsu game. He's a black belt on the mat. He's finished 6 of his 7 wins by rear naked choke. But Alex is also a very, very good black belt, and I think this is going to come down to who's the better striker of the two. And although Mickey Gall just did look impressive with his striking last time out, Morono's not going to be crashing forward the same way Jordan Williams was, and I think Morono's a better technical boxer of the two. I mentioned he's out of Fortis MMA, black belt on the mat as well. Pretty good boxer. Outside of, him getting KO'd by Chaos Williams, who kind of just seems to have the death touch, Morono's a damn durable guy, and I have a hard time finding areas where Mickey Gall is just better than Alex Morono. I think Alex Morono's got him covered everywhere. I think Tyler thinks the same. I think we might look to parlay Alex Morono, who's more experienced everywhere. I don't even know how much more I could add to it. I think Alex Morono probably wins this one by decision. Mickey Gall, he didn't get to show it last time out, but the guy's got a tough weight cut to welterweight. And as the fight progresses, he does tend to slow down, and I think that's where we're going to see Morono take over. Morono's takedown defense is not that good, so if Mickey Gall wants to exploit that, he's going to be the bigger, of the two guys, and could be heavy on top if he gets Morono down. But Morono's shown me enough on the mat. I think he can hang with Mickey Gall, and I think he's the better striker of the two again. Morono's probably going to be a parlay piece for me. In the first fight of the night, last one to break down for you guys, we see Luis Smolka, who's 17-7, taking on Vince Morales, who is 10-5, and we're in the men's bantamweight division here. I kind of came into this tape study wanting to fade Luis Smolka. Morales cashed a bet for us last time out. Smolka's just kind of always been somebody that's on my fade list, but after tape study, man, I think Luis Smolka, he might be the side here. He's definitely a much better Luis Smolka than used to be in the UFC. He doesn't battle the demons outside of the cage. Just saw an interview. The guy's in a good headspace, bought himself a house. I really like Luis Smolka here, man. He's had a team, Oyama, works with Alex Perez, who's also a fantastic wrestler, to help prepare him for Vince. He used to be a flyweight where he had a pretty tough weight cut, but he fought a whole bunch, very, very good flyweights. I think he's a whole lot healthier here at 135. He's already got a long frame at 5'9". And where, he's going to have a big striking advantage here, I think he's going to implement a pace that's going to kind of exhaust Vince. It's going to be fighting at a much, much higher pace than Vince and Draco just fought. But at the same time, Luis Smolka, he doesn't have a whole lot of strength to him being so lanky. He sports like a 31% takedown defense, and he's sometimes doesn't offer much resistance going to his back. And a good wrestler, can have their way with Luis Smolka. But on the mat, he does offer a lot. He's never really content just laying there. Doesn't really try to accept bottom position. He's very active with submissions off his back. And I think that could be enough here to offer against Vince Morales. He's out of Syndicate MMA. And I just mentioned coming off the win over Draco Rodriguez, it was a pretty lackluster, pretty slow fight. Draco just accepted putting his back on the cage the whole time, giving Vince the center of the cage. And again, that's just not the style that Luis Smolka brings. Luis Smolka is going to be in his face, is going to be pushing him back, and I think it's going to be a pace that Vince is going to crumble under late. But Vince is a state champion wrestler. He does corner and work with Ricky Simone all the time, and I expected him to wrestle more in that fight, and if that's in the game plan here, I think Vince can make this fight close. He is the real natural bantamweight. He could be stronger in those transitions. I'm torn on it. This is a close fight. My gut tells me Smolka. Ty likes Smolka, so I like to hear that as well. And we do like to have action on the first fight, so don't be surprised if we do release a play on Luis Smolka to take this one. That concludes the breakdown for UFC Vegas 44. I went through 14 of the 15 fights. We had Brian Barberena finally get an opponent taking on Darian Weeks, who was supposed to be on the Contender Series and fight Josh Quinlan a couple weeks back. No breakdown on there, but interested to see Darian Weeks, take on Brian Barberena, who I was actually kind of looking to fade against Matt Brown. But as always, recap a little bit. Want to go through a couple things. The fight of the night for me, it's pretty obvious, man. Rafael Fiziev versus Brad Riddell. That is an excellent fight between two exciting strikers. Some of the best Tiger Muay Thai strikers we've seen. Can't wait for that co-main event. The fighter to watch for me is going to go Dusko Todorovic. The guy's lost 2 in a row, but prior to that, he was 10-0 and one of the more hyped prospects of the middleweight division. Has knocked out Michel Pereira in round 1, and I like him. I don't think Maki is that good of a fighter. He's kind of KO or bust, and I think Todorovic is in a good spot to get back on track. Underdog for me, I'm going to go with Vanderaa. Maybe not what a lot of people like to hear, but we are going to take a shot on that. Anytime people are going up a weight class on short notice and I'm getting a massive underdog, Luana Carolina and stuff weeks ago, giving me plus 185 on the guy who's, the natural heavyweight. Vanderaa is my underdog. I also like Jose Aldo a little bit. The prop, though, for me, Rob Font's 4-5 decision prop is plus 165, I think, on DraftKings, and that is a little interesting to me because I think if he does win this, it's by Aldo fading, and it's by that volume taking over in the late rounds to get the finish or to win those last 3 rounds on the judges' scorecards. Although I'm picking Aldo, phenomenal value on Font's 4-5 decision prop. And the best bet for me is going to be Brendan Allen. I know he's like the biggest favorite on the card, but he's the natural middleweight, and he has the grappling roots. That's been the problem for Chris Curtis in the past if he decides to use them. So I'm confident parlaying Brendan Allen on Saturday. Again, appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't yet, please leave a like, sub to the channel. Helps us out a ton. We'll see you guys next week.